I had a thought. I thought that I'd play 3D Space Cadet Pinball and have a nice talk while I played pinball because pinball is just a great game. Honestly, not enough people truly appreciate the classics. People are sad that Flash is going away. How many of them remember 3D pinballs? Ah, oh, I'm pressing the wrong button because I'm not a gamer apparently. I'll just cut it out in post, right? Like I do editing of any sort. No, I'll pay attention. I swear. All right, but anyways, I had a pretty rough day, I gotta admit. I am tired as all hell itself. Pulled a 12-hour shift at the hospital. Haven't gone to sleep yet. It's now 2:30. Ooh, it is rough. It is real rough to be up right now. But I wanted to think some deep thoughts, share my opinions on the concept that is human behavior and what is good human behavior that we all appreciate, and it really drags us down to the pits of hell with everybody else. It's a very interesting concept. I think anger is a very interesting emotion. You don't usually find anger, um, except uh, if it has basis in, unless it has basis in some sort of outside force that the person who is angry doesn't have much control over. Like, see all the people rage quit at games. Mmm, that doesn't hurt. That doesn't sting one bit. Nope. You see all all the people rage quit at games. I feel anger to be an extreme expression of emotion from lack of control over the situation. It's very, very interesting in that sense, which is why I also find anger quite often preceded a lot by fear, which I think is also a very, very interesting emotion in and of itself. It seems that we as human beings are inundated with such primal fear of almost anything. Where does it come from? Where does this extremely bone-chilling, shivering tear that just melts us down to the very essence of just, I want to crawl away in a hole and hide, maybe even die, just from fear alone? What makes you not turn around when you're alone at night or not at night, maybe even in the daylight? What makes you scream and clutch the nearest object for self-defense? Like, you have active fear and passive fear. You have fear that's so strong your fight or flight reset. Ooh, I'm doing real well. Look at me go. Your fight or flight response kick in immediately, or you got fear that happens because um, you are approached by the thing you're actually afraid of, and well, you take action. Like that's the one I just said. Or the fear you're so mentally afraid of that it paralyzes you. It's like the difference between a traumatic experience versus a phobia. A traumatic experience will just lay you flat, but a phobia you might actually do something against. It might spike your adrenaline system. Not to say that both don't spike your adrenaline system. They most definitely do spike the adrenaline system for each other. But that's so sad. But one will at least get you to move and act in response to the fear. Like, let's say, hypothesize with me for a moment that most fear is based on trauma. Most fear is based on learned experiences that one learns to avoid out of fear. Well, let's say you fear your parents. Well, all right, you can't quite really fear your parents. They're 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 the people who are supposed to give you love and affection and take care of you. So what do you do with that fear of them approaching, of them invading your privacy, of them causing you to suffer? What do you do with that fear? Well, one might say you apply it, disassociate from it, you put it on something else, maybe something disturbing, something vile, or maybe something metaphorical. Like, what's your childhood fear? What gave you nightmares as a kid? What traits did that thing have? Was it traits of the way your parents or caretakers didn't treat you right or well or fairly? Or was it more of a way that you needed to be treated but never received? What do you fear more? The concept of a stranger breaking into your house? Or the concept of being left alone forever? Being in a void? What do you fear? It's a great question. The better question is why? Figure that out and maybe you'll have something really solid. All right, back to the original discussion. I was talking about anger in the beginning and how fear, unmitigated, can cause anger to appear. Because after all, if you are stuck in a very angry loop and you don't have much to do about your situation other than cower or fight, if you're going to fight, you need a different emotion than fear to spur you to action. Because fear, if that thing keeps growing, boy, it'll just paralyze you. You won't be able to move, much less think or turn around. It kind of just kills that. But what you might be able to do is get angry, get mad, scare that thing back. Maybe that's the defense mechanism you learned against your way to cope, you know? Just a terrible way to cope, but it is the way you learn to do so. Wouldn't that be terrifying? I see a lot of angry people at the hospital. A lot of people angry at their situation, and some who are usually in there for mental health reasons angry at me, even though I've done nothing other than greet them. It's unfortunate, but they need some sort of control and stability, and they don't know how to properly express that. I'm just kind of spitballing points here. I'm not really thinking. I'm just moving my mouth, and you know, it's quite nice. It's kind of what I wanted this to be. I'm just glad I can play pinball and do so, you know, because honestly, great game. What else is on my mind? You know, while I was working tonight, I met a couple people, and I must say, uh, hospitals not a good place to be. Nuh-uh, not at all. And it makes me really wonder why do we idolize it so much? Why do we idolize hospitals as like this place of culture of caring, smiling communities? Nah, they are a place of suffering and torment upon the soul. They are not a happy place. They are not a fun place. They are not a good place. I would almost say that the last place that you want to be is the hospital. Like all the stuff about free Medicare, Medicaid, you know, I have nothing against people wanting to be able to pay for the hospital, but like just being in the hospital is so damn rough already. It's like Jesus. Just we need something else. We need something other than hospitals. We need like other options for treating people. Like, honestly, it is terrible. It's a terrible place to be. You're surrounded by sickness and death during these COVID times. Like, I'm working on isolation floor. You got so many people on ventilators. It's just absolutely nuts. It's nuts. And I mean, like, that's how it's kind of supposed to be, you know, cuz COVID, shortness of breath, they can't breathe, but it's just terrible to see. It's terrible, and there's nothing much else we can do to help them. Just give them oxygen and try and keep them comfortable. Maybe someone else could do more, but it's it's just too much for only a couple people. It's just too much. It's mentally exhausting. It's physically exhausting. It's just, it's rough. It's truly rough. People do not, I don't know if regular people know how hard nurses work. Because it is truly rough. Like, maybe if you have a nurse in your family and they talk to you because they have to, honestly, to keep sane, you really have to talk to your other nurses. You gotta have people there who will just listen. Like, honestly, I'm surprised every nurse isn't in therapy, just so that way they don't have to bring it home to their families, you know? That's the thing I have a bone to pick. I have a bone to pick with therapy. Not just the hospital, but just all of it in general. It's it's a rough situation, uh, having therapy given to young people. I I don't quite like it much. I think a psychiatrist, maybe. A psychologist, sure. But a therapist? During such a prime age of socialization? Unless they're like real good at what they do, at separating the concept that what they have is not friendship. Like, that it contains the healthy motes of what a friendship should be, but it is not that that that's the thing. Modern therapy and its effect that it has on children is extremely devastating. It is teaching kids that having someone properly listen to you and respond and ask questions about your life and what you're interested in is not the normal. That it is in fact a paid profession, which is just crazy. It's crazy. You have friends that say, "Hey, you know, don't don't treat me like you're my therapist, because you're not." And it's just like, so your friend's listening to you and responding in a healthy way that your therapist would? That not a good thing? Should that not be it? Why are we establishing the divide in young people's minds that friendship and therapy are not both the same thing? Like, yeah, you hang out and play games with your friends and all that, but when you need emotional support, you should be relying on your friends and close connections and not an outside force that you're paying for. It's just not right. It's not right how we are telling kids that to be listened to is a profession, is not normal, because it should be normal. It should be what we do. And we're just not, I guess. It's depressing. It's so depressing to see kids actively seek out something that's not healthy just to get away from the fact that it feels like therapy. and that they don't like therapy. Because these are young kids. These aren't older people. These are young kids. And that's very sad. Back to pinball. Anyways, I'm not at the top of my game tonight, but boy, you count me in on like more than no hours of sleep in 24 hours, and I'm doing a whole lot better. Probably actually get my memorized strokes back down in pinball soon enough. I used to have this thing down to a science. It was really good. Ah, well, can't win them all, as they say. Anyways, next topic. I guess while we're on the topic of therapy and children and trauma, I might as well talk about trauma. It's very interesting, very controversial point. Um, trauma has a trauma has a lot to do with taking negative experiences in your life and them being so absolutely brutal, so mind-bendingly insane that this could ever occur, that this could ever happen. Something so out there, so absolutely wild, so utterly evil that it's hard to comprehend. And that evil, that it's out there, that it's ready to just get you, that you have to actively force your brain to say, hey, focus on this problem for a long time until we figure out a way to get away from it. It's just crazy. Trauma is something just absolutely terrifying. And it happens almost every day. The next worst experience you grow through will no likely be traumatic. And well, the next the next worst experience you go through will likely be traumatic. Because if it's the worst, it's usually real traumatic. That's kind of the thing about it. It's such an outlier that it just strains your emotional capabilities so much that you can't properly process anything, really. You just have your emotional reaction, and then you have to sort through that emotional reaction, and then you have to learn what to do in case that might ever happen again, which is just a terrible thing to go through, an absolutely horrific thing to go through that I wish nobody really had to, but this is also why we have each other, so that way we have support to go through it, and not just ourselves, not just alone. And other people can help input, figure out what on earth happened. What on earth just happened? I've been talking for quite a while. I think I might as well call it here, see how it goes. Thank you so much.